In terms of public transportation, we had a visit by Gunnar Olson, who broke news on the show about the grant received by Des Moines Area Rapid Transit. He's a public information officer for DART. With Gunnar, we discussed passenger rail and the sustainability, job creation, and then the quality of life that might become possible by increasing access to passenger rail here in the Des Moines area. There's also been a positive response in terms of public transportation by the city of Des Moines in making Ingersoll a bike-friendly boulevard. There was so much controversy before they created the bike lanes. In fact, there was a lot of hostility towards the concept of bike lanes on the street, but it's turned out to be very beneficial for the businesses in that area of town. And then it also slowed traffic down too and created a safer environment for both bicyclists and pedestrians as well as car drivers too. So it's been a win-win situation. It was a great experiment that seems here to stay. And then hopefully, I think Grand Avenue is another area they're contemplating making those forward-thinking, sustainable changes to transportation. In terms of transportation, we also have talked about the Des Moines Airport Authority proposal that was brought before the City Council. And then also along with that, the addition of Southwest Airlines. While I'm not entirely sure myself of the effect of the airport authority, I am pro Southwest Airlines, having been a frequent rider in the past. But anyway, in terms of that, you can attend the next Des Moines City Council meeting to follow that issue. And then also there's been a lot of write-up in the Des Moines Business Record, particularly the Des Moines 31st edition of the Business Record on public transportation and what it means for the future of Des Moines.
The revenue that we've had in the last several years, assuming a 4% allowable growth, we still have a huge structural deficit that can only be dealt with if we deal with budget drivers. And the biggest drivers in the budget, I think, like school aid, Medicaid, and state employee salaries. Now, we're going to need everybody's cooperation to come up with the most fair and equitable way to deal with those issues. And yet, we're committed to being fair to the taxpayers, and that is to eliminate the structural deficit, to abide by the 99% spending allocation, and put together not only a two-year budget that we can pass in this General Assembly, but also projections into the future that shows that we have a sustainable as opposed to an unsustainable budget. And I don't think we can expect a big help from the federal government that we've got in the last 2 years. It's very obvious the federal government has a bigger budget problem than we do, and they're going to have to make reductions, and we probably will get, I don't think we can expect more money coming from the federal government. We probably ought to anticipate less. So those are the realities that we're facing, and those are sobering realities. I just want to make sure that we make thoughtful decisions and we try to work with everybody to come up with the best way to deliver the quality services that we want to deliver to the people of Iowa, to do it in a sustainable and affordable way.
In terms of water, we have done 2 stormwater episodes. We also had a visit from Bill Stowe, the Director of Public Works. It's the most watched show of Blue.Green.Fusion. He gave a lot of information and mostly focusing on runoff, winter storms, flooding, and then also how Public Works Department responds to issues like that, and then a lot of other information too. We've also covered local news on water quality, such as pollutants and then wastewater, and then the addition of fluoride. It's best to watch episode number 9, which is a stormwater episode part 1, and then episode 11, which is stormwater part 2 with Bill Stowe. You can also visit www.dmgov.org and then click on Public Works to see documents and white papers and a lot of helpful information and hints about how to handle water or flooding and issues like that in your area.
There's obviously a lot of frustration with these numbers. How much do you blame on economy and how much do you blame on
Well, first of all, you can't do anything about the national economy. I have already indicated that I think the previous administration made a huge mistake by using one-time money and borrowed money to balance the budget, and that's a mess we're going to have to clean up. But, the election's over. We want to focus on the future, and we want to put together an affordable and sustainable budget that meets the needs of Iowans. And we know that, for instance, there are many elderly and low-income people out there counting on the Medicaid program, and we want to make sure that we fulfill the requirements that we have there. We know there are school children counting on school aid, and we know there are state employees that count on the salaries and benefits they get from the state. But we're going to need their cooperation of all of them and all the others that receive benefits and help from the state of Iowa to recognize that we only have a limited amount of money, and we're going to have to find the most efficient and economical way to deliver those services, and that means that it needs to be shared sacrifice.
Waste we have not covered in depth. That's one issue that I hope to address more fully this new year. However, we have talked about recycling on the show, specifically calling it the twin tower of the green economy along with energy efficiency. And why do we call it that? Because the ordinary person can exercise a great deal of control over recycling and energy efficiency. And so that's something that's very empowering to the ordinary person. It's very accessible, and then it makes it seem as though it's something that the little man, I guess we'll call it, can participate in. Also, so you can look at recycling from both a personal perspective of what we do in our own homes and then our own daily lives, and then also on a public perspective in terms of what organizations and city departments, how they handle recycling. And then there's also the political aspect, too, of the economic issues connected with recycling, and then also the underground issues connected with recycling in cities such as New York, where there's like an underground green economy developing around the recycling issue. It's pretty interesting. But anyway, to follow that issue, you can visit www.icosc.com, and that's the Center on Sustainable Communities. You can register for a free lecture on recycling at the Des Moines Social Club by Recycle Me Iowa and Metro Waste Authority. Okay, so I did want to mention that Writer in the Library is a book that I wrote. I used to be a librarian. I have a library science degree, and I wrote that book, and it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to put it on the board real quick. Writer in the Library, 41 writers reveal how they use libraries to develop their skill, craft, and careers. And I put that on the board because it's been 3 years since I wrote that book, and it's still going pretty strong. It was just recently added to the University of Northern Iowa's collection, The Panthers. And I'm excited about that because it turns out that I underestimated my own book, but I'm really thrilled with it. I'm really glad that it's being shared and that it still has value to the writer. And so there is a writing community here in Des Moines. It's a very strong writing community. There are many groups that meet to discuss different types of writing. And hopefully that might be a resource. I don't know. I'm just really happy that it's there.